We have 12 Dynasty trades that we're going to have to get through here. These are all pulled from our Discord. These are all members of flockfantasy.com. It's how we're going to do our Dynasty trade show every week from now on. We're just going to have that Dynasty trades tab in our Discord for the supporters on the site. And once you make a trade, or if you have a question for a trade, just go through, take a screenshot, drop it in that channel, and I'll go ahead and I'll put it on our Dynasty trade show each and every week. So thank you so much for everybody who's a part of the flock. But I owe everybody a thank you. Even if you just occasionally check in and watch one of these videos, thank you so damn much. We're going to the NFL draft. This Thursday, I will be on the red carpet interviewing the biggest players at the draft. Yes, Bijan Robinson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, the whole 9 yards. It couldn't have happened without y'all, so thank you so much. And I want you to celebrate with me. Please make sure you're going to our main YouTube channel before the draft. That way you can hang out with us in the live chat. You can get your questions to those guys. I couldn't be more excited about it, but thank you. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, if you want to get access to my Dynasty rankings of all your favorite content creators, if you want to get your trades highlighted on this show, if you want to get me breaking down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team, it can all be found on flockfantasy.com with promo code FLOCK. You're going to get all that plus 30% off any subscription. Let's go ahead and let's break out this little notepad. Let's get into these trades. First one, going to be Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson. So a mighty hefty package here for CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle. So it's a 2-for-2 swap. We're going to be looking at wide receivers. Yes, you have the guys at the extreme. You have Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson. Whereas you have the two guys in the middle with CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle. 9 times out of 10, if we're going to be looking at this dichotomy, you want to be going with the best player in the deal. Yes, we're getting the downgrade in the long term from Jalen Waddle to Stephon Diggs. I'll be the first person to admit that. Trust me, I'd much rather have Jalen Waddle. You know I'm a massive Waddle fanboy. But if we're going to be looking at the gap that you have from the #1 overall player in one quarterback dynasty leagues in Justin Jefferson to CeeDee Lamb, that raw points per game gap is going to be significantly wider over the next 3 to 4 seasons compared to what we should have between Stephon Diggs as well as Jalen Waddle. So in my mind, it doesn't even really matter if we're going to be a rebuilding or a contending roster. I understand if you were rebuilding, you would maybe think, okay, well, let's go get both of the younger options. Let's go get Lamb and Waddle. In reality, you just want Justin Jefferson. Let's go over to our next trade. This is going to be Christian Kirk for Dameon Pierce. Now, in my mind, honestly, kind of a fair deal. And I want to talk about the strategy behind a swap like this. Whereas if we were playing in a dynasty format where you have to start, say, 3 wide receivers, then you have 4 flexes. So you're a start 11 league, start 12 league, and you could start up to 7 wide receivers on a week-to-week basis. And it's full PPR. They're not going to lie to you. In a format like that, I might take the security with Christian Kirk. I mean, we're really confident that you're going to be able to start Christian Kirk for the next 2 to 3 years. Don't necessarily know what the upside's going to be. But nonetheless, I mean, getting the security of a Christian Kirk in a format like that makes so much sense when depth wide receivers are hard to come by. However, if you're playing in a shallower dynasty league, if instead of starting 11, 12 guys, instead you're going to be starting 9 or 10, or maybe you don't necessarily have all those flexes, or maybe you're in a 10-team league, right? Just in general, you don't have to start 6, 7 wide receivers every week. There, I'm going to go through, I'm going to take Dameon Pierce now. Yes, it's entirely possible the Houston Texans go out there and draft someone this year, but it's also entirely possible that they brought in Devin Singletary to be the backup running back in Houston, that they're going to get a massive quarterback upgrade this next year. Maybe they invest into wide receiver with Quentin Johnston at the beginning of the 2nd round, maybe Jackson Smith-Njigba in the middle of the 1st, and all of a sudden, Dameon Pierce is going into year 2 in a vastly improved offense where he's still the clear-cut starter. So I think it does depend on the format that you're playing in. Honestly, I'm probably going to go Dameon Pierce, but I understand it given your format if you really wanted to go Christian Kirk and get the wide receiver depth. I know the team that was getting Kirk also has Trevor Lawrence. But going over to our next deal is going to be Jerry Jeudy for Deontay Johnson and the 205. Now, if we're looking at Deontay Johnson, a wide receiver that has dominated with targets over the past few seasons. And in general, those are going to be the guys that I'm looking to buy low on. If a wide receiver has dominated the target share but hasn't necessarily scored a ton of fantasy points, usually the points will follow the targets. If you have those opportunities, you are eventually going to be scoring fantasy points. But in the case of Deontay Johnson, he is an outlier. He is an extreme. I'm tired of chasing the targets. I'm done with it. It's not happening with Deontay. Even if Kenny Pickett were to improve this next season, Deontay Johnson was so inefficient this past year that I'd be surprised if he's actually able to go through, if he's able to command the same target share that he has seen over the past 2 seasons. I'm going to operate under the assumption that this is a team, once they improve the offensive line, they're going to be a little bit more run heavy, and we're going to see fewer pass attempts overall. We're going to get continued improvement from Pat Freiermuth going into year 3, from George Pickens going into year 2. So I'm expecting a continued decline with Deontay Johnson, even if it's a little painful for me. And the 205, if you're looking at how tier breaks are, you don't really know what you're going to get with that pick. You're probably going to get whatever running back that's on the borderline day 2, day 3 player, someone like Tajay Spears, Tank Bigsby. Whoever doesn't land in a good landing spot, you're going to be looking at them at the 205. Obviously, there's a tier of like 6 or 7 of those guys that are all very comparable, but you have to think about it. I mean, the guy that gets the good landing spot, the guy that has more draft capital than we assume, he's not going at the 205. He's going at the 201. He's going at the 202. At the latest, he's going at the 203. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get a bad running back out of that group or a bad situation out of it. Just give me Jerry Jeudy, who is still incredibly young, younger than Kenny Pickett. Jerry Jeudy, who also at the same time has continuously improved. And, you know, we've been banging the drum for God knows how long that he is the wide receiver 1 over Courtland Sutton. Now, going to our next deal, this one's hilarious, right? The 101 for the 103 and 2 second-round picks. Now, I understand, yeah, you're moving from the 103 up to the 101. You're moving up 2 picks. It maybe should only cost 2 seconds. No. It doesn't matter if it's super flex. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 quarterback format. Please, please, please understand the hit rate of those second-round picks. They are 9 times out of 10, probably not 9 times out of 10, but 7 to 8 times out of 10, not going to be a difference-making player. If a draft class has 2 difference-making players, and I'm talking true difference-making players that come from the second round, you're happy with that. You're happy with that. I mean, hell, even if you just get a depth wide receiver in the second round, you're probably pretty happy with that. So I understand if you're sitting at the 101, you're saying, well, Mason, you know what? I'm not ready to contend this year. I have to trade back. I'm going to go back and get the 103. Instead, I'll draft Will Levis, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and then I'll pick up additional future capital. If you're going to do so, please make sure you're at least getting a first-round pick. Please, please, please make sure you're getting that first. Now, going over to our next deal, this is going to be another Stefon Diggs trade. This one, we are going to be looking at Stefon Diggs, Garrett Wilson, David Montgomery, and the 301 versus the 104, George Pickens, J.K. Dobbins, and the 208. So if we're breaking this down, I would rather have Dobbins over David Montgomery, but am I going to throw a fit over it one way or another? Not necessarily. They're kind of in a similar range. They're both running behind elite offensive lines. Neither are going to draw targets out of the backfield. Maybe they'll see a few. Obviously, Montgomery stepping into a role that was hyper productive last year with Jamal Williams, but we can assume that it comes back down to earth just a bit. So you're not too excited about either running back. I mean, you could see either one finishing as a running back 1. You could see either one finishing as a running back 3. They're kind of the same. Trust me, I still would prefer J.K. Dobbins, just highlighting that they're in a similar tier. Going over to the other side, if we're looking at Garrett Wilson and Stefon Diggs versus the 104 and George Pickens, miles apart in my mind. Stefon Diggs versus George Pickens, I don't care if you are a straight rebuilder. I don't care if you have a 0% chance to win in 2023. You need to go forward and you need to take Stefon Diggs. You need to ask for more. You can't sell him for George Pickens straight up. If we're looking at Garrett Wilson versus that 104, you are taking Garrett Wilson. Do not overthink it. Garrett Wilson was an elite prospect. Arguably, he could be either the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 in this draft. If he wasn't the wide receiver 1, he would be a wide receiver 2 minimum. Has one of the best rookie seasons we've seen in a long time from a wide receiver that young. Probably going to get a massive quarterback upgrade with Aaron Rodgers. So, yes, you're getting a slight running back upgrade from David Montgomery to J.K. Dobbins. Yes, you're getting a slight pick upgrade from the 301 to the 208. But with those marginal improvements to the smallest pieces in this deal, it's not going to make too big of a difference for me. Just give me the 2 best pieces. Just give me Diggs and Garrett Wilson. Now, going over to our next one, we're going to be looking at a future first versus Tony Pollard and the 209. Now, in my mind, very fair deal, right? I mean, if you're a contender, you could see Tony Pollard and you could say, well, Mason, look at how productive he was this past year. And now you have no Ezekiel Elliott. Now the workload may even be higher for Tony Pollard. He could be even better this next season under the franchise tag. I'm a contender. If I add in Tony Pollard, I am going to win this next season. I understand that argument, and I understand the argument from the opposite end of the view saying, hey, Mason, I'm not going to contend in 2023. I'm just building out for 2024 and beyond. Let me get that first round pick. I think that makes a lot of sense as well. But in general, I want to put myself back in the shoes of the contending roster. If you were that contender, right, why would you sell your 2024 first for Pollard today? I believe in 2 to 3 days, we are going to have the NFL draft. I don't know if you heard, I may or may not be on the red carpet, but 2 to 3 days, we will have the NFL draft. We will have a much better understanding of the situation that Tony Pollard will be in. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys don't take a running back. Maybe Tony Pollard is in the same exact situation a week from now than he is today. That's a possibility. But it's also a possibility this team decides, okay, we have Pollard on the franchise tag. Let's go through and let's try to make a play for someone. Let's go through and let's get Bijan Robinson. We know we'll sell a ton of tickets. We know we'll sell a ton of jerseys from Longhorn fans that are crossed over with Dallas Cowboys fans. Maybe we go get Devin Achane for the long term. Maybe instead we go get Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe we get Zach Charbonnet in the second round and we pair up Zach Charbonnet and Tony Pollard. There's so many different things, even a Tank Bigsby addition, that could maybe hinder Pollard's value just a little bit, or it doesn't really make sense to make that move right now. I would have rather waited a week if I was that contending team where we know that 2024 first round pick, its value is going nowhere. Its value cannot decline. I'd rather wait a week and then trade the 2024 first for Tony Pollard after the draft if he dodges all those bullets. But now going over to our next deal, we're going to be looking at DK Metcalf in the 105 versus the 107, 108, 109, and 210. Okay. So first off, let's talk about DK Metcalf versus 2 first-round picks. If we're looking at DK Metcalf versus the 108 and 109, in my mind, those picks are most likely going to be like Jordan Addison and Zach Charbonnet. Would I rather have DK Metcalf or the combo of Jordan Addison and Zach Charbonnet? To be honest with you, I'd probably rather have the combo of rookies. Now, of course, if you're a contending team, maybe it's going to be a little bit different, but I think it's a possibility for either Zach Charbonnet or Jordan Addison to have more dynasty value than DK Metcalf this time next offseason. I'm not saying it's likely, but I do think it's in the range of outcomes. And if it's in the range of outcomes, honestly, if we're going to get 2 shots at that, I think it's probably a little bit of a better move to go in that direction. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we still are giving up the 105 for like the 107 and 210. There, it's a little closer. I'm going to be a little biased with this, right? Because to be honest with you, I can already tell Will Levis will be my most drafted rookie. And I don't even think it's going to be up for debate. I think Will Levis will be my most drafted rookie, not only in dynasty leagues, but in underdog leagues, the way things are shaking out. I think that if he goes pick 2 overall in the NFL draft, and dynasty owners are allowing him to fall to like the 107, which is what I'm seeing everywhere, he is going to be the easiest pick ever, and I'd probably rank him as high as like the 103. So if we think we can trade like the 105 for the 107 and pick up that extra second round pick, of course, it's just so we can do the other Metcalf deal. And we could still get Levis at 7. If Levis falls to pick 7 here, I think it is a really good move. But if Levis, say, goes at 6 and Jackson Smith-Njigba goes at 5, and then at 7 we're having to get Jahmyr Gibbs, probably be a little less excited about that one. Now let's go over to our next deal. It's going to be an Amon-Ra St. Brown trade. Obviously, we have the Jameson Williams suspension. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown as well as Chris Olave versus the 102, 108, Deontay Johnson, and the 204. To be honest with you, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Bryce Young, they are right there. So really, I think we can just kind of take them out of the deal and say, you do you. Depends on your roster, whatever you want, whatever your personal preference is. But then, if we're looking at Olave versus the 108 Deontay Johnson and the 204, and we try replacing the picks with the names that will actually be there, say we go ahead and we get Tank Bigsby 204, say 108 we get Jordan Addison. Would I rather have Chris Olave or Jordan Addison, Deontay Johnson, and Tank Bigsby? There, give me Chris Olave by a freaking mile. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take St. Brown and Olave, especially with the Jameson Williams suspension. Now our next deal, Deshaun Watson in the 102. So Deshaun Watson and Bryce Young for Patrick Mahomes. When in doubt, you go Mahomes, okay? I've learned this lesson the hard way. Unless you are 100% confident, and I mean 110% confident, that it cannot be a losing trade, you go with Patrick Mahomes. Like, if you're sitting there and it's Deshaun Watson, the 102 in a 2024 first-round pick, you're saying, oh my gosh, it's so much value. I can't pass up on it. We're going to go with Deshaun Watson, Bryce Young in the 2024 first, sure. But if it's close, like if you're trying to pull up like a trade calculator or something, or you're trying to get the advice of your buddies, if you have to ask someone else if you should sell Patrick Mahomes, you know immediately you do not do it. You do not do it. You only do it if it's a no-brainer. You only do it if the other owner is dramatically overpaying. Now, our next deal, we're going to be looking at Hawkinson for David Njoku as well as Chris Godwin. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to take TJ Hawkinson. I understand we're paying up for the age at tight end, which usually isn't a good thing, but I think Hawkinson is both an elite option in the short term and the long term. I'm completely fine overpaying for Hawkinson. Now, the next few deals we have are just complete no-brainers. We have a long-time member of the flock out here. It says Taylor, 201, 203, 212. Ha, ha, ha. We're taking Jonathan Taylor. Next one, London versus Hunt, Jamal Williams, and a second. Okay, I mean, if we're looking at this, Hunt, Jamal Williams could literally be zeros in 2024. Like, if we just go 12 months down the road, we look at next offseason, you're literally looking at Drake London versus a second-round pick. Of course, we're going to go Drake London. Next one, Kyler Murray versus Romeo Doubs in the 109. Ha, 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 ha. We're going to go Kyler Murray. I don't know what we're really doing here. Next one, this is the last trade. This is the most interesting trade of the entire video. Garrett Wilson, the 101, and a second-rounder for Jamar Chase, Jamison Williams, Dameon Pierce, and the 108. Now, I do have Jamar Chase ranked ahead of Bijan Robinson in our Dynasty rankings. Now, they are neck and neck. They are literally back-to-back in our one-quarterback Dynasty startup rankings on flockfantasy.com. I want to say the second-round pick kind of bridges the gap. In reality, if I'm looking at Bijan Robinson in the second versus Jamar Chase, I'm still taking Jamar Chase. I think you have to. But they're comparable. If you were telling me, Mason, I'm desperate, I need a running back so much, and I love Bijan Robinson, I'd say, okay, go for it. You could probably squeeze out a little more value. It's comparable where I think we can move on and look at the other side of the deal, where we can look at Garrett Wilson versus Jamison Williams, Dameon Pierce in the 108. That 108's most likely going to be someone like Jordan Addison. 108's most likely going to be someone like Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Zach Charbonnet. Even looking at this now, I was hoping that we'd be able to come up with an answer by the video, but I don't think I can. I don't know. Please. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. Let the owner know what you're thinking, because I can't help out here. But again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. If you have not done so already, you better be going down there. You better be dropping a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And make sure you are hanging out with us on the red carpet at the NFL Draft. Make sure you're going to our main YouTube channel. It is the biggest moment, I think, probably ever. Maybe our 24-hour live stream was about the same, but still, it's a super big moment for our career and this channel. It's all because of you. I want you to be there. I want you to celebrate it with us. So thank you so much for everything. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.